He built the most valuable company on earth, then got fired from it, by his own board, in front of the entire world. Most people would have quit. He came back, and saved it from the edge of bankruptcy. This is the story of Apple and the man who refused to let it die. February 24, 1955. Paul and Clara Jobs adopt a baby boy in San Francisco. They name him Steven. From day one he is different. Bored in school. Disruptive in class. Too curious for his own good. His fourth-grade teacher had to bribe him with candy just to keep him in his seat. He was not broken, he was just built for something bigger than the classroom could contain. At 12 years old he cold-called Bill Hewlett, the co-founder of Hewlett-Packard, and asked for spare parts for a school project. Hewlett was so impressed he gave Steve the parts. And a summer job, 12 years old, already refusing to accept the word no. 1974. Steve Jobs is 19. He drops out of Reed College after one semester, not because he failed, because he refused to waste his adoptive parents' money on classes he did not care about. He sleeps on floors, returns Coke bottles for food money, walks 7 miles to get a free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. Then he meets a quiet genius named Steve Wozniak. Wozniak could build anything. Jobs could sell anything. Together they were unstoppable. 1976. A garage in Los Altos, California. 2 young men with no money and an impossible dream. They call it Apple. The first investor is a local computer shop that orders 50 machines. Steve Jobs goes to a parts supplier and convinces them to give him the parts on credit. He builds the computers, delivers them, gets paid, then pays the supplier. First deal, $0 starting capital, pure determination. Apple II launches in 1977. Personal computing goes mainstream for the first time in history. Then comes the Macintosh. 1984. The most famous product launch commercial ever made. A single 60-second television advertisement that told the entire world that computing would never be the same. Apple goes public. Steve Jobs becomes a multi-millionaire overnight, at 25 years old. But success brings enemies. 1985. The board of directors turns on him. The man Jobs himself hired to run Apple, John Sculley, convinces the board that Steve is more problem than asset. In a boardroom meeting, Steve Jobs is stripped of his responsibilities, then pushed out of the company he built from a garage floor. He is 30 years old, he drives home alone, and sits in an empty house wondering what just happened. For 11 years Steve Jobs wanders. He builds a new company called NeXT. Critics laugh. He buys a small animation studio nobody cares about for $5 million. He names it Pixar. Nobody takes him seriously. Toy Story changes that in 1995, the first fully computer-animated film in history. Pixar becomes a billion-dollar company. But Steve is not done. 1997. Apple is 90 days from bankruptcy. The board is desperate. Products are failing. The company is hemorrhaging money. They buy NeXT for $400 million. And with it, they get Steve Jobs back. He walks into Apple headquarters 12 years after being thrown out, looks at every product they are making, and cancels 70% of them overnight. He stands in front of his exhausted team and says something nobody forgets. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. 1998. The iMac. Simple, beautiful, completely different from everything else. 1999. The iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. 2000. The iPhone. The device that changed what a phone means forever. 2001. The iPad. Each one bigger than the last. Each one saying no to everything complicated and yes to everything human. By 2011, Apple becomes the most valuable company on earth. Worth more than ExxonMobil, more than Google, more than Microsoft. The man they fired is now running the most powerful technology company in human history. Steve Jobs died on October 5, 2011. He was 56 years old. He left behind a company worth $3 trillion today, He left behind the iPhone in your pocket, the Mac on your desk, and the Pixar films your children grew up watching. He was fired by his own board at 30 years old. He came back at 42 and changed the world twice, once when he built Apple, and once when he saved it. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. There are plenty more where this came from.